On a scorching summer afternoon, the streets of the city were buzzing. Amidst all this chaos, a young girl named Isla Monroe carried her small cart of water bottles, walking carefully on the uneven pavement. She wasn't like other girls her age. She had responsibilities far bigger than her small frame could bear. Her family had fallen on hard times, and after her father passed away, her mother was left with a broken leg and a heart full of worry. Isla had promised herself she would do whatever it took to help, and that promise had turned her into a young woman with a kind heart and a strong will. Her eyes, bright and curious, scanned the street for any passerby who might buy a bottle of water, her voice rising above the noise. Cold water, only $1. Please, help yourself. Just a few steps away, a black luxury car weaved through the narrow lanes. Behind the wheel sat Gabriel Kane, a young millionaire who had everything money could buy. He was late for an important meeting, yet he found himself glancing out the window at the busy streets. As the car slowed at a red light, Gabriel's sharp eyes caught sight of a girl struggling with a heavy cart. She looked small and fragile, but there was something about the way she moved that seemed determined and fearless. He watched as she balanced the bottles, carefully stepping around puddles and small rocks, never letting a single one fall. For reasons he didn't yet understand, his heart skipped a beat. At that very moment, fate decided to play a small trick. Isla focused on reaching the end of the street, miscalculated a step, and one of her bottles slipped from her tray, rolling toward the road. Gabriel, who was still watching, barely managed to stop his car in time. The bottle stopped just short of the car. Isla gasped, her heart racing with panic as she ran forward to pick it up. Muttering apologies, worried that she had caused trouble, Gabriel opened his window slightly, his deep voice calm yet commanding. "Hey, are you okay?" Isla looked up, startled, expecting anger. Instead, she saw a pair of piercing hazel eyes, full of curiosity. She nodded quickly, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to." Gabriel held up a hand, stopping her. "It's fine. Accidents happen. Are you hurt?" Isla shook her head, a small smile forming on her lips. There was something in his voice that made her feel safe. As she bent down to pick up the bottle, she noticed his expensive shoes and the shine of his car. Realizing the man in front of her was clearly wealthy, far from her world. Yet strangely, she didn't feel intimidated. Gabriel, seeing her resilience, felt a pang in his chest that he couldn't explain. "You carry a lot for one person," he remarked, his tone light but filled with genuine interest. Isla glanced at the cart and then back at him. I have to. My mother can't work, and I sell water to help us survive." There was a sincerity in her voice that made Gabriel's chest tighten. He had always believed money could solve every problem, but here was a young girl taking on responsibilities most adults would struggle with. All he could manage was a simple, "That's admirable." Isla blinked, surprised by his kind words. Most people either ignored her or scolded her for being in the way. Emboldened by his interest, Isla smiled genuinely. "Thank you, sir. It means a lot when people notice." The traffic around them continued. Yet for a few moments, the noise faded away. Gabriel found himself imagining what her life must be like, how she faced each struggle with such courage. He had always been surrounded by wealth and people who flattered him, but none of it had ever touched him the way this simple encounter did. Isla felt a strange comfort in his presence. He didn't pity her, nor did he look down on her. There was a warmth in his gaze that made her feel valued. She adjusted the cart, ready to continue her day. But Gabriel, feeling a sudden urge, rolled down the window further and said, "Wait, how about I help you carry some of these bottles? It might make your day a little easier." Isla froze, caught off guard by such kindness from a stranger. I couldn't." She started. Gabriel smiled warmly. "It's okay. I just want to help. No strings attached." Slowly, Isla nodded. They worked together to lift a few bottles, the simple act breaking the invisible wall between their worlds. Gabriel found himself enjoying this unexpected connection. As they finished, Isla thanked him, her eyes shining with gratitude. Gabriel, touched more than he expected, said softly, "You have a good heart. Isla, don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." Isla blinked, surprised. You know my name?" she asked. Gabriel chuckled lightly. "I saw it on your cart. I guess I was paying closer attention than I thought." They shared a quiet moment. Two very different people connected briefly by fate. Gabriel returned to his car, but his thoughts lingered on Isla, on her courage and her smile. Isla, meanwhile, felt a strange hope bubbling inside her. They parted ways, both knowing that this was no ordinary meeting, though neither could yet understand how much it would change their lives. As Gabriel drove away, he glanced back at her small figure, and a thought struck him. Maybe some people are worth more than all the money in the world. Isla watched the black car disappear, her heart fluttering strangely. Little did they know, this simple encounter would be the start of something neither of them could have predicted. A connection that would challenge their worlds and ultimately bring them closer. The air was thick with possibilities, and for the first time in a long while both felt that life had opened a door, leading them toward a journey filled with hope, challenges, and the kind of love that could change everything. The morning sun rose over the city, casting golden light on the busy streets. Isla Munro pushed her small water cart carefully through the crowd, sweat dripping from her forehead. She greeted every passerby with a smile, calling out softly, "Cold water. $1 only." Her back ached and her feet were sore, but she kept going. Life was never easy, but Isla had learned to face it with courage. As she walked, her mind drifted to yesterday. To the man who had helped her, Gabriel Kane. She shook her head. He was probably just a kind stranger, nothing more. Meanwhile, Gabriel Kane sat in his office, staring at piles of documents he couldn't focus on. His thoughts kept returning to Isla Munro, the girl with the water cart. She had no idea who he was, yet she had touched something in him he hadn't felt in years. Her honesty, her courage, the way she smiled even in struggle. It replayed in his mind over and over. Without thinking, Gabriel grabbed his keys and left the office, driving toward the street where he had seen her. Something inside him was pulling him to her. Isla bent down to fix a loose bottle, unaware of the man approaching. "Need help?" A gentle voice called. Her heart skipped a beat. She looked up and froze. It was him, Gabriel Kane. She blinked, trying to understand why he was here. He knelt beside her cart, examining the loose wheel. "This should hold for today," he said softly. Isla's eyes widened. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Gabriel smiled, standing beside her. "Do you mind if I walk with you for a while?" he asked. Isla hesitated, unsure why he wanted to, but something inside her said yes. "Okay," she said softly, and together, they began moving through the busy streets, side by side. As they walked, Gabriel watched Isla interact with everyone around her. She helped a little boy who had dropped his ice cream, guided an elderly man across the road, and smiled at strangers without hesitation. He was captivated by her kindness, the way she faced life with no complaints. Isla noticed Gabriel watching her closely, yet she felt no fear. Instead, she felt a quiet warmth she couldn't explain. For a moment, it was as if the city noise faded, leaving only the sound of their footsteps and the small laughter that escaped Isla's lips. Suddenly, a drunk man stumbled into Isla's cart, knocking several bottles onto the street. Water splashed everywhere. Isla flinched, frightened by his shouting. Gabriel's expression darkened. "Calm but firm," he said. "That's enough." The man froze, intimidated by the authority in Gabriel's voice. Without another word, Gabriel helped Isla pick up the bottles, making sure none were damaged further. Isla's eyes filled with quiet gratitude. She realized he truly cared about her safety, and not just in passing. This was something real. Later, Isla finally rested on a small bench, wiping sweat from her brow. Gabriel sat beside her, his elbows on his knees, watching her carefully. She spoke softly, telling him about her daily struggles, how she sold water to help her mother, who could not work after an accident. Gabriel listened quietly, touched by her resilience. He realized that no amount of money could solve the hardships Isla faced, yet she faced them every day with courage and kindness. For the first time in his life, Gabriel felt that money was not the most valuable thing in the world. Her heart was. Before leaving, Gabriel reached into his pocket and handed Isla a small wrapped sandwich. "It's not charity," he said softly. "It's just a meal. From a friend." Isla hesitated, then smiled. "Friend," she whispered. Gabriel nodded, smiling warmly. "Yes, if you'll let me be one." Isla's cheeks flushed as she accepted the gift. A quiet connection passed between them, unspoken, but real. Both felt a thin invisible thread tying their hearts together, fragile yet strong. As Gabriel walked away, Isla watched silently, her mind replaying every small moment of the day. Something had shifted inside her: curiosity, excitement, hope. Gabriel glanced back once more, feeling a strange pull in his chest. Both knew, even without speaking, that this was no ordinary encounter. Fate had begun its work, tying their lives together in ways neither fully understood. And as the sun set over the city, both carried a quiet anticipation, knowing their paths would cross again. And when they did, their hearts would face challenges, discoveries, and moments of connection that neither wealth nor poverty could control. The sun peeked softly through the cracks of the tiny room where Isla Munro lived. She stirred awake, her muscles aching slightly from yesterday's long hours. The small mattress she slept on creaked as she pushed herself up. She looked at her mother, still resting under a faded blanket, and felt a quiet determination swell inside her chest. Today, like every day, she had to work. She gathered her water bottles, carefully stacking them on her cart, and whispered a small prayer. "Please, let today be a little easier," she murmured, glancing at the streets beyond the window, where the city had already begun its loud, chaotic rhythm. Outside, vendors shouted over one another, bicycle bells rang, and children's laughter bounced off the walls. Isla took a deep breath, her heart steadying. Even though the world was hard, she was ready to face it again. Meanwhile, Gabriel Kane sipped his morning coffee. The city sprawled beneath his large window. He had everything wealth could buy: luxury cars, a team of assistants, a penthouse, but his mind was elsewhere. His thoughts kept drifting back to Isla Munro, the girl whose honesty and courage had touched him so deeply the day before. He stared at his reflection in the glass, thinking about how small gestures could leave the biggest impact. Why does she stay in my mind? He wondered silently. He had never met anyone like her, not even in his world of power and riches. Today, he decided, he would see her again. Maybe he could finally understand why she felt so important to him. Isla pushed her cart through the crowded streets, balancing bottles carefully. Every bump of the uneven pavement made her muscles strain, but she smiled politely at every passerby. Children ran past her, chasing a stray dog, while a fruit vendor shouted out his prices, holding up shiny apples to attract customers. The smells of bread, spices, and hot tar mixed in the air. She noticed a man watching from across the street. Her heart skipped. It was Gabriel Kane. He stepped closer, cautiously, careful not to startle her. He was dressed casually today. No suit, just a crisp white shirt rolled at the sleeves, looking almost approachable. "Good morning, Isla," he said gently. Isla froze. She blinked rapidly, surprised he remembered her name. "Gee, good morning, sir," she stammered, her voice small but polite. Gabriel walked beside her as she maneuvered the cart carefully through the crowd. "Do you always work alone?" he asked, his voice soft but curious. Isla nodded. "Yes, I have to. My mother can't work, so I have to sell water." She glanced at him briefly, then looked away, embarrassed. Gabriel noticed the way her eyes flickered with quiet pride and worry all at once. He felt a strange warmth in his chest, realizing that her hardships had made her stronger, braver than anyone he knew. As they walked, a street dog trotted past them, sniffing the ground, and Gabriel laughed softly at its clumsy enthusiasm. "You notice everything," Isla said quietly, smiling slightly. Gabriel smiled back, surprised that she had noticed his little observation. A small moment of connection formed between them, silent yet powerful. Suddenly, a vendor bumped her cart accidentally. A bottle wobbled dangerously. Isla gasped, quickly steadying it, her hands trembling slightly. Gabriel's reflexes were faster. He steadied the cart before it fell. "Be careful," he said softly. Isla's heart raced, both from fear and from the closeness of him. "Thank you," she whispered. Gabriel smiled gently, realizing that every small moment with her made him feel more alive than the grandest boardroom or the most luxurious hotel ever could. As they continued walking, he noticed her exhaustion. Her steps were slow, and her back ached. He knew he had to do something more to ease her burden. Without saying much, Gabriel took a few bottles from the cart, carrying them lightly as Isla walked beside him, amazed. "You don't have to," she said softly, glancing at him. "I want to," he replied, smiling warmly. The warmth of the sun reflected off the buildings, highlighting his face as he looked down at her. Each step together felt like a quiet adventure. They passed street musicians, the scent of fresh bread mixing with the city's dust. Isla's smile grew as she realized that he was genuinely enjoying her company, not judging her, not pitying her, simply being with her. And Gabriel felt something he had never felt before, that perhaps life was meant to be felt in moments like this, not in contracts or investments. Finally, they paused at a small street bench. Isla sat down, brushing her hair from her face. Gabriel leaned against the cart, still carrying a bottle or two. "Do you have siblings?" he asked gently. Isla shook her head. "Just my mother. She's not well." She sighed softly, her eyes downcast. Gabriel listened carefully, noticing how brave she was despite everything. He told her small things about himself, not his wealth, but about growing up alone, about his dreams and his loneliness. Isla listened intently, surprised at how normal he seemed. They laughed together at small memories, shared quiet observations about the street, and slowly, a bond formed between them, stronger than either expected. The sun started lowering, casting long shadows across the streets. Isla felt tired but strangely happy. She glanced at Gabriel, who was watching the crowd, seemingly lost in thought. "Why are you really here?" she asked softly. Gabriel hesitated, then smiled faintly. "I don't know," he admitted. "I think I want to understand you, to see your world, to know why you smile despite everything." Isla's heart fluttered. She didn't fully understand why his words affected her, but she felt seen, truly seen. For the first time in her life, she realized that Gabriel was not just a stranger. He was someone who was slowly becoming part of her world. As evening approached, Gabriel prepared to leave. "I should go," he said softly, his voice reluctant. Isla nodded, feeling a small ache in her chest. "Thank you for everything," she said quietly. He smiled, a small glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Tomorrow I'll be here again," he said. Isla blinked, a strange excitement filling her chest. She had no idea why, but she knew she wanted to see him again. Their eyes met, silent understanding passing between them, a promise without words. And as he drove away, Isla felt her heart race with anticipation, while Gabriel, sitting in his car, realized that she had already captured a part of him he could not ignore. The streets slowly quieted as the evening deepened. Isla looked at her empty cart, thinking of the day's events. She had worked hard, but it had not felt like struggle today. Gabriel Kane had reminded her that even in hardship, kindness and connection mattered. And Gabriel, returning home, felt something new, inside a longing, a hope, and the strange certainty that Ila Monroe was not someone he could forget. Fate had begun weaving their lives together, and the bond that started as a small encounter on the street was growing into something neither could deny. Tomorrow, their story would continue, and neither of them could yet imagine how much it would change their heart. She stretched, feeling the familiar ache in her back from yesterday's work. Ila took a deep breath, glancing at the simple room around her. She thought about Gabriel Ken, the man who had stepped into her life so unexpectedly. She shook her head, trying to tell herself it was just a coincidence, that their meeting had been a one-time event. But her heart disagreed. Something about him stayed with her, stirring feelings she didn't fully understand yet. Isla felt his presence beside her, strong and reassuring, yet she tried not to think too much about it. Each step felt like a silent conversation between them, words unspoken but understood. The city moved around them, loud and chaotic, but they were in a bubble of their own. Isla gasped, steadying it with both hands. Gabriel reacted instantly, holding the cart firmly before anything could fall. "Be careful," he said softly. Isla's cheeks flushed. "Thank you," she whispered. The sunlight reflected off the nearby buildings, casting golden light across his face. Isla noticed the subtle warmth in his eyes, a softness that was unusual for someone of his status. They passed children playing with marbles, a street dog sniffing around, and vendors shouting prices. Each small detail made the moment feel alive, and both felt the growing bond between them, quiet yet powerful. They paused at a small bench, the warm sun filtering through trees. Isla sat, brushing hair from her face. Gabriel listened, noticing the quiet bravery in her voice. Laughter escaped them softly, blending with the city sounds around them, forming a tiny, private world in the chaos. "Look at that little guy," he said, smiling. Each small event made their walk longer and richer, giving them a chance to observe life together. Gabriel thought, every detail she notices makes her world beautiful. Isla felt the strange comfort of having someone walk with her, noticing the things she noticed, without rushing or judging. The sun lowered slowly, painting the sky in orange and pink. Isla felt tired but happy. She glanced at Gabriel, who seemed lost in thought, watching the crowd. "Why are you really here?" she asked softly. Gabriel paused, then smiled faintly. I want to understand you, to know your world, to know why you smile even when life is hard. Isla's heart fluttered. She didn't fully understand why, but she felt seen, truly seen. And for Gabriel, every word she spoke felt like a small treasure, something richer than any wealth he had. Evening approached, and Gabriel prepared to leave. I should go, he said softly. Isla nodded, her chest tight. Thank you. For today, she whispered. He smiled. Tomorrow, I'll be here again, he said. Isla blinked, excitement stirring inside. She had no idea why, but she wanted to see him again. Gabriel drove away slowly, glancing back once, realizing she had captured a part of his heart he could not ignore. The streets emptied, the city glowing under evening lights, and both carried quiet anticipation for what tomorrow would bring. Isla looked at her cart, now empty, thinking of the day. The hard work had felt lighter, filled with small joys. Gabriel Kane had reminded her that even in struggle, connection mattered. And Gabriel, returning home, felt something new, inside longing, hope, and certainty that Ila Munro was no ordinary girl. Fate had begun weaving their hearts together, slowly but surely. Tomorrow, their story would continue, bringing new surprises, emotions, and challenges neither could yet imagine. The day after the storm was calm. The streets still smelled of wet earth and warm dust. Isla walked slowly, her sandals making soft sounds on the wet pavement. Her cart glimmered with tiny drops of water. She breathed in the cool air and felt a small hope. She thought of the man who had come into her life, Gabriel Kane. She thought of his quiet ways, his small kindnesses, the sandwich he gave. Isla told Gabriel small things, how her mother liked jasmine tea, how the cart's wheels squeaked at the corner, how a neighbor shared bread once when money was gone. Each story was simple, but it was full of life. Gabriel listened like a man learning a secret language. He repeated small parts of her words to himself. Jasmine tea, a squeaky wheel, a neighbor's bread, and he felt the world quietly change. They shared small truths like people passing a flame, one careful hand to another. Each truth made the silence afterwards heavy and honest. Gabriel bought a small tool from a nearby stall, nothing grand, just a new bolt and a patch for the wheel, and he fixed it with careful hands. He did not hand over money or talk about his power. He used his hands to fix what was broken. Isla watched his hands work, ordinary and kind. Gabriel spoke quietly about dreams. He rarely said, a small house by the sea, a garden with lemon trees. Isla replied with a shy smile, saying her dream was small to a day where her mother did not worry, where their cupboard had steady food. The two dreams sounded different but shared the same heart. Both wished for safety, for simple peace. Gabriel repeated her words slowly, tasting each one. He felt life narrow to the small and true. Later they sat at a low table near a food stall. The vendor served warm rice and lentils, an ordinary meal made special by company. They ate slowly. Gabriel watched Isla eat and thought how a shared meal made strangers into friends. He asked small questions about her mother's laughter and the songs she remembered from childhood. Isla listened to his quiet curiosity and felt safe enough to share a laugh. The meal ended with both feeling lighter, as if the city had given them a small gift. As the sky changed color, Gabriel said softly, "I will be here again tomorrow." Isla looked at him, surprised and glad. She told him this honestly. Gabriel listened and promised only what he could keep: his time, his honesty, and his respect. He gave her attention, respect, and time, a gift rare and real. Gabriel drove away thinking of the little promises he had made, and he felt the resolve settle in him. He would not let her face unnecessary hurt if he could help it. He felt the truth of a slow love starting to grow. That night, Isla closed the small shutters and sat by her mother, who slept softly.